Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, before I can give you an answer on that, I'm going to have to go back and watch the film.
Yeah, okay.
But, it's early. Seems like, good to be back out here. But, again, going to have to go back and watch that film before I can really give you a good assessment of how I'm doing.
When you do watch that film, will you tell me then, or will it still be too early?
Probably not. It's still pretty early in camp, so I'm not sure I'll be able to give you a real good assessment of where I am and in terms of like a depth chart of my emotional well-being, where I would stand on that depth chart.
Plus, this is like one of 40 podcasts.
This
exactly. Is just one.
I look at this as the 16th podcast of our spring football coverage rather than
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, here we are at the Ohio State campus again. Got to watch, Tom, about 45 minutes of practice today, 6 periods. Got to see some mainly individual stuff. There was some passing. Mm-hmm. It was very hard to see the passing based on the fact that the entire team was standing in front of us while that was taking part. But it was better than nothing. It's always better than nothing. And so we did. There was still quite a bit to see, even though we should put the caveat out there right now. When you're watching 45 minutes of one practice and you're only, let's just talk about Josh Fryer thing and the offensive line. I saw Josh Fryer working with the ones at left guard for one drill. Tom, you took a picture of what looked to be the first team offensive line.
Yeah, during warm-ups, stretching, and it was Harry Miller at left guard and Matt Jones at center, and not Josh Fryer. So it's like, who's with the ones right now? It's like, well, that depends. At one point I texted you during practice. I was just kind of like, I'm shooting a bunch of pictures, so when I notice something, I'm texting Tony just to kind of remind myself and remind him. And I texted him, hey, Noah Potter's back with the defensive ends. He's not with the tackles anymore. And Court Williams is working with the linebackers now, not the safeties. This is really interesting. And then 10 minutes later, Noah Potter was back with the defensive tackles, and Court Williams was back with the safeties. And it was like, nothing has been learned. Good.
Yeah, I saw Andre Turntine with the corners, and then another play later, he's with the safeties. Saw Jansen Dunn once as a deep safety, another time as the cover safety, I think. And the entire time of, not the entire, some of the time you're doing this, you're looking through guys who are 6'7". You're looking through offensive linemen who are just standing around totally in the way. So I guess that is their job, though.
That is literally the job of an offensive lineman, yes.
But it's just to let you know, it's hard to piece all of this together and be 100% accurate, especially when even if you could watch the entire practice, you're still not going to be entirely accurate. Like, yes, Ryan Williams is a starting running back right now. It's like, but it's one practice.
Right, exactly. This is, I think we said this on yesterday's show, this is like a data point to use to start as we start to sort of figure out what things are going to look like this fall. We're going to be back at practice later this week. That'll be another look. Things get a little more firmed up each practice. There's a long way to go, and this is, they were just in helmets. There's no pads, no nothing. It was just like helmets and pants and jerseys and cleats, and that was it. So there's not, you can't draw any real firm conclusions from this. This is just, hey, we get noise. It is stalking. The Gator is stalking us yet again. We are we're just kind of getting a good starting point here to sort of figure out where things stand entering fall camp, and then we'll kind of continue to evaluate as the month goes along.
So we got to see practice. We talked to Ryan Day for 25, 30 minutes. Learned a lot more. So I thought we figured the best way to go through this is just position by position, quarterback through the offense, then the defense, because it's easier to remember everything and stay on track. Quarterbacks, of course, Quinn Ewers is not here yet. I don't even think he was mentioned today, which is crazy. He's only the biggest story in the world, but I guess it was pretty emphatically squashed the other day. But nothing new. It was the same guys we expected in the same order. C.J. Stroud, then Jack Miller, then Kyle McCord. And again, you're watching it from 120 yards away, 140 yards away a lot of the time with the quarterback. So Ryan Day said he was pleased, but
Yeah, Brian Day's biggest takeaway to me was, when they were throwing against air, they completed all their passes, which is like, that's good. That's what you should do as a college quarterback, a high-level Power 5 college quarterback. And they did, so that's good. That's... the other alternative is you don't do that, and that would be bad. So how much are you going? How many conclusions are you going to draw? Ryan Day was certainly not willing to draw any conclusions whatsoever. I don't think we were anticipating he was going to walk in there and go, and our starting quarterback will be.
Let's bring him out here now.
Yeah, I don't. That press conference is probably at least 2 weeks away. If it even happens then. But I mean, this is for a first practice. Like, okay, it sounds like he felt like there had been progress made since the spring, which is with 3 young quarterbacks. That's what you want.
Yeah, they caught the ball well. They threw the ball well, and so that was good. I asked about Kyle McCord. We're gonna have ask about Kyle McCord having 3 freshman receivers as his roommate. And we were wondering who put that together, and Day said that was Kyle, and it just shows that leadership, and it's something that they'll create this bond, and in a while they'll make use of it. But just interesting to get the answer there as to who put it together, and it's another glimpse in into Kyle McCord, and he talked yesterday about leadership and having to show leadership, and he's been showing leadership since he was committed to Ohio State.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting part of Day's answer to that question was Day talked about, Day was a college quarterback as well at New Hampshire, and he said, when he was playing, you showed up for the first day of fall camp and it was like, "Hi, I'm Ryan, nice to meet you." And now it's like these guys have not only known each other for 2 years through a recruiting process, but they're friends. There's this pre-existing relationship. A lot of them have probably gone to a lot of the same kind of camps. A lot of so you know each other from the All-Star circuit. There's just you're not coming in cold. It's not like when you were a freshman at Ohio State and you showed up and it was like, okay, I have a letter that says this is my roommate, and I maybe have talked to him on the phone once, and then hi, nice to meet you. These are people, and Kyle McCord talked about Marvin Harrison being his best friend. I mean, they went to high school together, and so there are all these pre-existing relationships. So you've sort of kick-started that process where you can skip steps 1 through 4 of getting to know each other, and now it's like, okay, and now you can just kind of work on football.
Yep, and as roommates do, they all go and do stuff together, and what quarterbacks and receivers go and do is they throw together, and they build that rapport that eventually becomes second nature. Are you ready to move to the running backs?
I am.
Because the running back to me was one of the big stories, even though it may be, it's not totally meaningless, but when I saw the running backs repping, it was Mayan Williams in front of Master Teague, with Master Teague running second, and then behind Master Teague it was Marcus Crowley, and then Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor, Steel Chambers working with the linebackers. Another bit of news there, but I'm not shocked because we've heard nothing but good things about Mayan Williams. I was surprised.
I was surprised. I thought that's something that could happen 2 weeks into camp.
Not day one.
Not day one. That was my expectation. My expectation was, Ryan Day has used the term incumbent before. That's sort of the way they have discussed Master Teague in the past. And so you would sort of assume that means, okay, he's going to be repping first now. And I'm not surprised that this happened before the start of the season. I'm a little surprised that it happened now. And let's see what order everyone's repping in on, Friday or whenever we're back here, and next week again. But yeah, that was interesting to me because obviously there is a little bit of a track record there, and Ryan Day talked about the impressive run from Mayan Williams in the Sugar Bowl, but it was like, but that was one of 9 carries last year, so there's really not a lot of a track record there. So they have obviously seen an awful lot, and he talked about how Williams has just continued. Williams showed up last year in remarkably good shape, and Day talked about how he has continued to kind of build himself physically. So I think he's probably I think he probably works out is my takeaway there.
The way I like to explain it is Mayan Williams is listed at 5'8", 227 pounds. I don't know if he's still listed at 227 pounds, but that's what he was in the spring. Eddie George, as a senior at Ohio State, was listed 6'3", 227 pounds. So it's like you just squish Eddie George about 7 inches, and you get Mayan Williams, and it's all still there. But I kind of happened upon the running back drills accidentally because I was, videoing on my phone the offensive line, and I'm just scanning. Let's just get everybody, and I see they're working on some swing pass drills, and I think what happened is I caught the tail end of the walk-on, because they go in order, and the walk-ons are the ones who bring up the rear of the drills. And so I think I caught the tail end of a walk-on doing it, and then it was like, oh, here comes Marvin Williams. Oh, I assume Master Teague is like resting because he rested a lot in the spring. Like they're taking it easy. And then, oh, here comes 33, and that was like when I see Master Teague like actually repping
Jack Sawyer's with the running backs.
No, yeah. So it did catch me off guard, and that, I mean, it's one glimpse, but I don't think it's insignificant, and just something to keep in mind. Anything else with the running backs? I liked what Ryan Day had to say about Travion Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, Travion Henderson, I think is you know, he's not there yet, but everything you hear from everyone who talks about him, it's coming. Like, it's in there. He's still not, you know, he's working his way up. He's someone who, you know, like we said with Mayan Williams, we expect Mayan Williams to go from potentially second to first on the depth chart before the season. I don't think Travion Henderson is going to be fourth in line necessarily for more than another week or two. And, you know, could he be third? Could he be second? I mean, could he be first by the end of the year? Like, I don't know that I would say any of that would in particular surprise me.
Day said he's just very serious about the job, and doesn't really. He just listens and doesn't, like, he's not a problem, not an issue, and just a really serious dude. Receivers, Tom, I thought nobody asked about Garrett Wilson, nobody asked about Chris Olave, nobody asked about Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's all about these young guys. And it was, somebody asked about Marvin Harrison, and Dave was like, it's all three of the freshmen. It's not just Marvin Harrison. And he said Emeka Egbuka was, I don't know if it was outstanding or incredible. It was one of those adjectives to state how advanced he is. And so it's, you know, we kind of leave Jaden Ballard out quite a bit just because he's kind of like number 7 in the group of 6. But I think it was good for, you know, Ballard and really to have Day single him out as a guy who is, you know, like, don't forget about him.
Well, you got to remember that room, we've talked about how this is this incredibly deep room and how, you know, they have this incredible number of players there. It's like, well, that has started to sort of thin out now. Mookie Cooper's not here anymore. Mookie Cooper's at Missouri. Jalen Harris is not here anymore. Elijah Gardner's not here anymore. All of a sudden, instead of going from, you know, instead of having like 10 wide receivers on the roster, now it's, you know, 7 guys on scholarship. Now it's a lot easier to get some of those reps, and you're not, you know, you wonder how they're going to split those reps up, because you do have Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, who are definitely, you know, the veteran 2000 rep club. I mean, you know, those are guys who are probably not necessarily going to be getting every single rep, you know, especially early in fall camp, as they try and just keep them fresh and keep them healthy. There's a lot of opportunities there, and, you know, Jaden Ballard, someone who, you know, we have, and this is sort of always the lazy comp, because it's, you know, the fast outside wide receiver from Massillon Washington High School, but, you know, you get the Devin Smith comp thrown on you a lot. There's a lot of talent there. I think the assumption coming in was there might have been a little bit of development. Like, the talent is not the question. It's just, you know, developing his game and, you know, do the run blocking and all the other stuff you have to do as a wide receiver. Maybe he's a little further ahead than we thought.
Yeah, with Harrison, I only saw, while we were trying to see the passing drills with all of the offensive line standing in front of us, I did see Marvin Harrison snag one on the sideline, like a quick out, where it's just like everything he does is, it looks professional, it looks emphatic, and he's a big dude, strong hands, and it looks how it should look. Like if Michael Thomas came in and it's like, hey, I'll work with you guys for a little bit, and it's just similar to that, where like it's just something simple, but it's like, it's different. Yeah.
He doesn't look like a freshman. Like, a lot of the freshmen out there today look like freshmen, and you know, I don't know if you, when they were doing the passing drills, I went up to the top of the bleachers, the very top row of the bleachers, so I could see some of the stuff depending on what they were doing. One of the things that I could see was kind of down the right sideline, whichever quarterback threw a deep ball to Julian Fleming, and Julian Fleming was covered by Ja'Kalen Johnson on that play, and Fleming had gotten behind him and couldn't end up bringing it in. The pass was kind of a little outside, but you know, it was just like, you know, yes, that is what's going to happen to a true freshman corner in his very first practice at Ohio State. Like, he was there, he was kind of step for step with him, but he was just, like just a little behind and had kind of lost the outside. And so it was like, this is what happens with a freshman. Marvin Harrison doesn't look like that. Marvin Harrison doesn't look like, well, it's a freshman, he's just sort of learning. Like, he's just like, oh, okay. And now he's just doing the things. And yeah, it's impressive, and it matches all the stuff that we were hearing during the offseason about, every time there was a report on, here's the true freshmen who were impressing early. It was like Jack Sawyer, Marvin Harrison. You had plenty of other guys mixed in there, but like those two guys were pretty much the two constants in all of those.
And it keeps checking out. Tight ends, a little bit of news there with Ryan Day basically saying like Cade Stover needs to replace Luke Farrell. He needs to be that second tight end, and then they'll work everybody else in there. But Cade Stover was one of the Iron Buckeyes, which is a group of Buckeyes through 11 weeks of strength training, like no days off, working until the end. Just the guys who really stand out among a group of 117 guys on the team right now who are, like, you have to work really hard to get to this point. And then there are guys who rise above that and become Iron Buckeyes, named so by Mickey Marotti. Cade Stover, one of those guys. Just another strong off season, and really exactly what you would expect from, like, he'd be an Iron Buckeye at linebacker, at defensive end, just because that's who he is. And so yeah, go play tight end. Okay, I will excel at it. I will do something with it. And I think we've kind of had him penciled in as that number 2 because he can be on the line and do what Luke Farrell does. But I also think he brings more offensive game, big play ability. Not that you're looking for big play, but I mean, he's a pretty incredible athlete.
Yeah, and he is, you said he's someone who you would expect to. Like, well, if you grew up on a farm, you probably have a sense how to put in a good solid day of work. That's a thing that I feel like I know about farmers. He's up to 255 this year. They do need someone. They need another guy to be the, you've got Jeremy Ruckert. You know what you got with Jeremy Ruckert. You have to find the next guy, because Jeremy Ruckert can get hurt. Sometimes you want to run a 2 tight end formation. Like that is a thing. So yeah, but it very much sounds like he's the guy they're expecting to do that, and he's the guy who is starting to look like he can do all the things they need him to do.
And not that they're going to give Jeremy Ruckert a lot of breaks this season, but Cade Stover being a guy who can replace Luke Farrell then allows G. Scott to come in there and be a second tight end as a flex guy and continue to run different 12 personnel with, as Ryan Day said, they've got different body types all throughout that position and different skill sets as well. So that'll be, as we have said, it is the year of the tight end at Ohio State. That just continues to be confirmed by everything Ryan Day said today.
What's interesting is I was just looking at, they have all sorts of different body types in there. And I was looking, and Cade Stover's listed at 255. Jeremy Ruckert's listed at 250. Joe Royer's listed at 245. I was like, well, certainly Joe Royer must be. No, Joe Royer has also gotten very big.
No, he ran right by me. He's like, that Joe Royer has gotten bigger.
Sam Hart listed at 245. It's like, well, I mean,
Mitch Rossi and G. Scott are different body types.
Yes, yeah. G. Scott is not. G. Scott is probably more of the. Like Kyle Pitts is sort of the lazy answer here, but the more kind of G. Scott is listed at 225. So he's, I think that's one of the reasons you're relying on Cade Stover is because G. Scott A, has to learn the position, and B, probably still has to grow into that role a little bit more. Because, to replace Luke Farrell was not a 50 pass catching guy. Luke Farrell caught passes occasionally, made some real big plays for Ohio State in the passing game, but was doing a lot of blocking. And if you're at 225, you're not necessarily going to be able to hold up against defensive ends or some of the guys you're estimating to block. So.
Let's move to offensive line. I saw Harry Miller snapping. Ryan Day said he's starting out at center, but can play guard. Can play either of the guard spots. So that will be something they can do if they need to. I also saw Toby Wilson snapping. Kevin Wilson's son. Walk-on freshman this year. It'll be interesting to talk to Kevin Wilson about that when we get a chance to. Like I said, Josh Fryer was working with the ones on the one time I saw him, and then Matt Jones was with the twos, and they were rotating in there. And I think, as Ryan Day said, you can look at and he said similar things about Matt Jones in the spring. Like, you can look at 30 plays of Josh Fryer, and he looks like an all Big Ten guy, but then there's other plays where he didn't have the wind, and so he had to change his body, which he has done. And so now they need to see what kind of shape he's in, how consistent he can be. And that was something that they had said about Matt Jones, where there's 30 plays you can put on tape where he looks perfect, and then I can show you another 30 where you see why he's not starting.
Yeah.
So these are guys that have the ability, and we continue to talk about the depth. We've said that since forever in the spring about how deep this group is. We didn't even talk about Enoch Famahi, and who knows, like Luke Whippler will get involved as well. And there are a lot of options at left guard, Tom. We could spend an hour on left guard if you want.
I mean, that's probably a little excessive, but
Okay. All right.
you know, I mean, the thing with the line is, I think they have to feel reasonably good with where they are, because you don't have all of the answers yet, but there are so many potential answers there that are, you know, this guy has the ability, and it's just a question of, you know, can he, you know, can he get his conditioning a little better? Can he get a little more consistent? Like, there are so many potential options there that are guys that are playing 15 feet over our heads. There's so many guys who are potential options there, who are guys who came in with, you know, top 100 kind of pedigrees, have had a couple of years to develop, work with Coach Mick, you know, continue to refine their technique. It's just like pretty much math that one of them is going to work out. Like, if you know, if the odds that any of these individual guys are going to pan out is like 40-50%, like, well, you've got enough 40-50%, like, you're going to have, and it's not like they need 4 different spots on the offensive line. Paris Johnson seemed pretty secure at right guard, so, and then the 2 tackle spots are pretty much done. So you need one guy to play left guard and one guy to play center, and there are so many good options there that whoever it ends up being, I think you'd have to feel pretty confident that this is a pretty good Ohio State offensive line.
Right. They may not have the answers yet, but it feels like this is an open book test.
The
You
answers,
just have to know
yeah,
where to flip. And
the answers were all there today. We just don't know which ones they are yet.
Yeah. I was going to say something else about the offensive line, but I have since forgotten. So you want to move to defensive line?
Sure, we'll move to defensive line. I spent a decent amount of time over there watching those guys, just because of the way the practice is laid out. Defensive line is right close to where we are able to stand. We're able to stand kind of behind one end zone on the practice fields, and so the defensive line always works out right in front of us, and the offensive line works out right in front of us, and then the quarterbacks are way on the other side behind, you know, in the other end zone. So, you know, you don't see the running backs necessarily up close. You don't see the quarterbacks up close. You don't necessarily see the, sometimes the defensive backs are up close if we're on the indoor, but not on the outdoor.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the practice, but yeah, I got to watch the defensive line a lot. Big news there. Tyler Friday was not out there today, and you asked Ryan Day about that, and it sounds like Tyler Friday is probably not going to be out there for a little while.
Yeah, definitely not out there for camp. He said missed most of the season, so at that point you wonder if they're just going to redshirt him.
Right.
Because he does still have that available. Well, everybody has one available, but he has not redshirted in his career. A career that has had injuries like every single year, I believe, along the way, and he missed time last year with COVID. So it's it's unfortunate, and you'd like to see him just worry about getting healthy, and then we'll see what happens next year. And this then, Tom, leads, you're wondering how did Jack Sawyer and how did JT Tuimoloau, where do they fit in? And now, like as Ryan Day said, they need to be ready sooner, and that's including Jacoby Cowan and Darian Henry-Young. I did not see Cormonte Hamilton out there.
He was out there.
I missed him then.
Yep.
So like all of these guys, and we were talking about on the Morning Scoop, where would JT Tuimoloau be repping? I saw him. He wasn't last. Jacoby Cowan was last among the scholarship guys.
Yeah.
So that just gives you a starting point for where he was today.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, again, this is not a comprehensive 100% of reps thing, but in general, it looked like it was a lot of Tyreek Smith and Zach Harrison first, Jack Sawyer and Javonte Jean-Baptiste second, and then I think Darian Henry-Young and someone else third, and then JT Tuimoloau fourth, I think. But which is not unexpected that especially with Tyler Friday. I mean, I think in my head the question going into today was Tyler Friday, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Jack Sawyer. Which two of those guys are repping second? And the question sort of answered itself because Tyler Friday's not healthy now. But I think that does go a long way to telling you, like, yep, Jack Sawyer's going to be playing early and often. If he's already in that spot, he's only going to have an opportunity to move up.
What was our over/under on sacks for Jack Sawyer? Do you remember? Because I might want to go over.
I think
was it 5.5 or something? I don't know.
I thought we tried to set it at 3.5 to be responsible, but it might be. You see a guy repping that high in practice number 1 as a true freshman, and you know that one of the guys who you mentally kind of had like, well, he'll have to beat out this guy is now no longer a factor. Yeah, you maybe want to bump it up a sack.
Right. If you're in the top 4, you're a starter.
Yeah.
At defensive end. And back to the offensive line, real quick. I'm sorry. if Josh Fryer and Matt Jones are both like they kind of get winded, do the same thing they do with the defensive line. Rotate them. That's all you got to do. That's what I want to say. The offensive line learned how to play without cohesiveness last year, and they still overcame it. So that was just a throw-in. But Tyreek Smith. Ryan Day was saying, like, last year the way he ended was really, really strong, and he just needs to take care of his body and stay healthy because he's also had injury issues. Everything seems to be fine right now, and you hope that it stays that way because when he's on the field, the Ohio State defense is much better.
Yeah, and you go back to the end of last year with, like the Big Ten championship game. I remember having a photo montage that I put on Twitter that was just him getting held so egregiously because he was just torching Northwestern's tackles. And Tyreek Smith, I believe, quote tweeted that if I remember correctly, and said, "Yeah, the ref said he couldn't see it," and crying, laughing emoji. But then, again in the semifinal against Clemson, I don't know if he ended up with any sacks in that game, but man, he was in Trevor Lawrence's face all night long, and this has sort of been coming with him for a long time. He was someone who was a big time prospect coming out of high school, has been in kind of in that mix for playing time, which is not easy to do with a unit as deep as this is. That tells you an awful lot about what they think of him, the amount of talent he has, but he just hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. So if he can stay on the field consistently, he's someone who, one good season this year, you're probably set up for a pretty nice, to be off the board relatively early in the NFL draft this time next year.
Yeah, and look at how the defensive ends from Penn State way, like first rounders without any sacks, and Tyreek Smith has been so close for a couple of years in terms of just a split second. So they've worked on getting that split second and picking up that split second so that he can get to the quarterbacks more. So I'm on that train. I think he's going to be really good. Just needs to stay healthy. Anything Haskell Garrett and Teron Vincent, we're wondering, will they play alongside each other? Ryan Day said they have that capability to both play nose tackle and 3-tech, but right now they like them at 3-tech, so it sounds like that's where they're going to stay, which also means they're getting what they like at nose tackle from Antoine Jackson, Jerron Cage, Talia Williams. Don't know where Ty Hamilton is, but it doesn't matter. They like what they're getting at nose tackle.
Yeah, and Talia Williams, since you mentioned him, he's listed at 315 now. That's down from 330 in the spring, 335. I mean, he's down 15, 20 pounds, which, when you come in at 330 pounds as a college freshman, that's probably not all good weight. So, that is a Coach Mick. Okay, get rid of the bad, and now
out with the bad.
Yeah, out with the bad. Push out the jive, bring in the love. Yeah, he is going to. You get rid of the bad weight, and now you start working your way back up again. I don't necessarily. I think it's probably not realistic to expect a true freshman nose to be an impact player, but he's another guy who you keep hearing good things about. You keep hearing encouraging reports about. There's a lot of talent there. He's going to be an impact player ultimately. But this year, if he's the third guy at nose, that's a great opportunity to spend a year developing. And then Antoine Jackson, Jerron Cage both could be done. Should be done after this year, I think. So. That is the Talia Williams show a year from now. I mean,
Tommy Togiai's freshman year, he was the third nose tackle. He played a lot, though, in that rotation with Robert Landers and Davon Hamilton. But maybe you see something. Maybe we see something from Talia Williams like we saw with Teron Vincent as a freshman, where it just gradually building, and then by the postseason, he's in that rotation. So we'll see. But I think it's a very positive sign that there's no moving of Haskell Garrett or Teron Vincent at this point, but I guess we'll see if something else happens.
one other thing at defensive line, I was just looking at Zach Harrison, who is in his third and potentially final year at Ohio State, and it was like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
This could already be his final fall camp. He's repping the team at the Big Ten Media Days, being talked about as one of the real vocal leaders on the team. Very possible captain choice this year. He just had the press conference where he announced where he's going to school. How is this? How are we already in the third year of the Zach Harrison experience here? But he's another guy who you can just you see. I saw him. He was working with JT Tuimoloau during some of those kind of one-on-one drills, talking to him, helping him out. Like he's kind of assuming that team leader role now. So yeah, it is. That is both encouraging on his part and a terrible reminder of the undefeated nature of time.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and right now we are standing like 20 feet away from the first time I ever talked to Zach Harrison, which was a gaggle of reporters, as I've mentioned on the show, following him from his OSU camp and just walking with him and his mom as they walked to their car because he wasn't really interested in stopping and talking with anybody. So like he couldn't keep us from walking with him. I mean, I guess the police probably could have helped him out there, but yeah, right down there and off into the parking lot. Good times. Linebackers, interestingly, Cody Simon working with the ones at middle linebacker, which Ryan Day said, we're still figuring things out, and Dallas Gant will be in there, and they'll see how it's going. But still, day one, repping with the ones at middle linebacker over a senior now. Dallas Gant, didn't play in the spring, was sidelined. So we'll see if Gant can catch back up and take that spot back. But from everything we've heard about Cody Simon, that's going to be a tall order because he's another one of those guys that you just keep hearing about, and he's laden with potential and something to watch there at middle linebacker.
Well, the first practice fall is always a little bit of an exercise in confirmation bias where, that was one of the questions we had come in. Who's going to be repping first at Mike? Is it going to be Cody Simon? Is it going to be Dallas Gant? If you have something that's completely out of the blue, Jagger LaRoe is repping first at quarterbacks, it's like, okay, you're going to write that off because that's like so far out of the realm of expectations. Like, well, that was probably just something they were trying to. When it's a question you come in with, and it's like, well, this would be interesting to see if, and then it happens, it's like, okay, so that I'm more likely to put some stock in that than I am something that's completely out of the blue. And we'll get another chance to see where things stand later the week and the next week. But yeah, to me that was really interesting. Because he's someone, he's another one of those guys where you just keep hearing positive things about him, and you keep hearing that he's, going to be a big thing here at some point. It feels like you're starting to see that. Another guy at linebacker who was, interesting to see out there, and then got some more information on him from Ryan Day was Palaie Gaoteote, which I learned a couple things today, one of which is I'm way better at saying his name than just about anyone else on the beat, so good for me.
I thought you were going to say that any other name. It's like, yeah, you do mess up on Mitchell Melton quite a bit. You still haven't gotten C.J. Stroud down yet.
Mitchell Melton I think probably out for the year is sort of the expectation, in case you're wondering about him. But yeah, Palaie Gaoteote. See, I jinxed myself. He was out there and he's on the official roster, and everyone said, aha, does this mean that he is had his NCAA stuff straightened out? The answer is no, still working on that. Ryan Day didn't seem like, Ryan Day just was very much like, yeah, I mean, we have him with like the threes right now because we just, until we know we can't waste reps more or less, if we don't, my assumption all along has been that this was, like such a gimme that, like, of course, because just to refresh people if they don't remember, he put his name in the transfer portal from USC last fall. That was before the NCAA announced the one-time transfer exception. So, therefore, he is not technically eligible for the one-time transfer exception because he put his name in before they announced it. Now, everyone else in the country can transfer one time for free. But he, because of the timing of when he put his name in, is not necessarily eligible for that. He has to petition the NCAA. This is one of these things that should be a 3-minute conversation with the NCAA. Like, look, you guys aren't idiots, right? And they go, well, I don't know. Maybe we are. And that's pretty much every conversation with the NCAA. But
he should transfer to Ohio State right now. Like, enter the portal,
and then transfer back to Ohio State.
Right.
Smart. Or transfer to another school and then transfer back to Ohio State. I'm going to Purdue, but just for 15 minutes, and then back in the portal. And we saw him a little bit out there, but he was going against, like, the rep that I saw him going was he was going against Evan Pryor, who's like the 5th running back. So he's. I have no opinion whatsoever on his readiness to play, it sounds like it's just kind of like everything is in wait and see mode with him until you get an answer from the NCAA, and then when that happens, then they'll see what's going on.
And Dave said that should be happening next week, I think he said, which is a week into camp at least, and now that's when things really start to pick up. So how can it's going to be difficult for him to get in there, but. I'm sure they'll try to give him some reps in the 1s and the 2s just to see what they have, rather than like waste having him here.
He just to me seems like this is setting up for him to be used like situationally and not necessarily as a starter. If he's going to be the big linebacker, then he's the guy who is in obvious run situations, or they're going to use him as an edge rusher, the Baron Browning kind of mold like we've talked about before. It just seems like it's sort of setting up for that, because if you're trying to learn the defense, he literally just got here a couple weeks ago, and now you're going to be playing Mike and being the guy who's running the defense. Like that doesn't seem like that's setting up for it to happen. So I am literally going to go add a picture of that gator to our podcast logo. Oh, there's a gator and now a mower. This is great.
We have no grass around us.
They're literally mowing the parking lot. This is definitely for spite. All right. So anyway. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch, but I think based on what we heard, I think my expectation for like the number of snaps he played, it probably went down a little bit today through no fault of his own.
I will be interested to see if we catch him doing any reps with pass rush reps with Larry Johnson, just to start to find that role that they're gonna give him. Anything else with the linebackers before we move to the secondary? I think I don't know if there's much else out there.
Yeah, I think that was probably. I mean, you saw guys sort of shuffling from safety to linebacker and back, but I mean, that was. Don't read anything into this probably.
The one thing to read into that with the Court Williams going to playing some linebacker and playing some safety, Ryan Day. We should just talk about the Bullets right now. Ryan Day did say that in talking about the Bullets, mentioned Court Williams. So when. 2 weeks ago, when I asked Ryan Day, hey, is Court Williams with the safeties or the Bullets? And he said safeties. I'm sure that was true. Now he's going to be a Bullet because he's cross-training at both safety and linebacker. Bullet, as we've always said, for Court Williams, and then, of course, move the stop over at safety. But, you got to learn all of these positions if you're going to play a hybrid. So that's that. Craig Young and Ronnie Hickman are still there as well at Bullet, so nothing new there. Secondary, Tom. I saw Marcus Williamson with the 1s and cover safety, and Lathan Ransom behind him, but I think those two guys, that it's just a competition, and it'll shake out probably in the next couple of weeks, I would think.
Yeah, and Marcus Williamson wearing number 5 now. Even Ryan Day. It takes me a while to get used to these numbers, and I keep looking at my roster going, I should know these by now. And then Ryan Day said, yeah, it's weird to see Marcus Williamson out there in 5. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Good. It's not just me. So, yeah, there. My expectation is that ends up being Lathan Ransom, and that's maybe a little bit unfair on my part, but I think, that assumption is based on Marcus Williamson's been here a long time. At some point, that learning curve starts to flatten out a little bit. The first year you're learning a lot. The second year you're still learning a whole bunch. Once you've been here a certain number of years, generally you kind of are what you are. If Lathan Ransom was kind of close to Marcus Williamson, or maybe slightly ahead of Marcus Williamson at certain times last year, you would think if his learning curve is a little steeper, he's progressing quicker, you would expect him to kind of pass and stay in front of Marcus Williamson, but that is just an assumption.
Yeah, there were so many corners running in and out, and the passing drills we got to watch, there were times where freshman safety Jalen Johnson was at the 1s. There were walk-ons at cornerbacks with the 1s. So it's really hard to judge a too deep based on what we saw. Did see Josh Proctor out there, deep safety, of course, and I think I may have mentioned earlier, like Jansen Dunn was deep safety on one snap and then in the slot on another. So just a lot of moving parts there. They're just working stuff out. And that was one of the things that Ryan Day said. They've got so many guys now that they can run 3 teams out there. I think the biggest news is Cam Brown. Foolish go, ramping him up. Like, they just don't want to give him too much too soon, but it sounds like he's fine. They're just going to ease him into it. So that's good news for the Buckeyes, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I put a picture on our board of Cam Brown and said it looks like he was full go, and then you put something that was like, well, he was maybe a little limited. It was like, yeah, we were watching the same practice, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Day made it sound like he is full go, but as they're sort of, it's more load management than health concern at this point. So, ramping him up to just,
pitch count, he said.
He's healthy. Continue to keep him healthy. And, I didn't have any real strong opinions on his play today. We just didn't get to see a whole heck of a lot. But, that's something that's going to be worth monitoring throughout the fall is, how, is he able to stay healthy? Does he have that still, the quick change of direction that you're going to need as a corner? How is that recovery from the Achilles going? All that kind of stuff.
Good to see Legend Cavazos out there because sometimes he's been out there in the spring, sometimes he's gone for long periods of time. So he was out there as well. That was good. J.K. Johnson, Jordan Hancock were both out there. Andre Turntine, as I said, was out there. They've got so many corners, but they're all just very, very young. So if you've got Turntine at corner now, so that's 4 true freshman corners. And then you've got Cavazos and Ryan Watts, which gives you 6 technically corners with true freshman eligibility. It's a lot of guys, and they don't seem unhappy about it. We'll talk to Kerry Combs, I believe, on Friday, and the corners, which there's going to be a bunch of them, so we'll get a good picture of that. But when Ryan Day talks about the secondary, like, he's so much, I don't know, like, there's no clouds over his head right now because of just the options they didn't have last year. They've got so many more this year. Now it's just a matter of getting 3 or 4 guys in that corner room to be ready.
It's kind of the same conversation we had with the interior offensive line. It's like, a couple of years ago, even last year, it was like, well, they're kind of almost out of bodies, so that's going to be a big problem. This year, you've got so many guys, it's just like, and these, again, these are not like 3-star guys ranked 800th in the nation. These are a bunch of Jordan Hancock, J.K. Johnson. These are top 50 players nationally. You don't need both of them to be immediate impact guys. If one of those guys turns into just a rotation player at some point, middle of the season, that's big. You don't need Ryan Watts and Legend Cavazos to both be immediately ready to start this year. If one of those guys is, can be the 3rd corner in the rotations, that would be big for them. You don't need everything. You just need something out of that guy. And there's enough. We are literally doing planes, trains, and automobiles right now. This is fantastic.
Where's the train track around here?
It's on the other side. On the other side of 315.
Yeah,
right. There's enough options there that something's going to pan out. Like you again, and I don't. This is a lot like the offensive line. I don't know who, but I know someone is going to pan out because just based on pure numbers and the way the development here is generally pretty darn good. So. You would expect that to kind of continue. The other name that we haven't mentioned yet is Demario McCall. He is wearing number 1. He is still with the corners, so that's just another person to kind of keep in mind. And you mentioned Steele Chambers earlier when we were talking about running backs. He is with the linebackers now. He's listed as a linebacker. He's wearing a white jersey, which is defense, and he was with the linebackers all day today. Does that mean he won't be with the running backs when we're back here on Friday? I don't know, but we'll that's at least where he's starting his fall.
And Ryan Day continues to keep that alive because I think he really likes him as a running back, but also because it's Steele Chambers' choice. Like,
right.
If you want to play running back, we can move you back. When you said that they don't need Ryan Watts and Legend Cavazos both, I'm expecting Kerry Combs to come bursting through this brick wall in front of us just because he's like, I heard. What'd you just say?
Cam Martinez too. Martinez too.
So I'm interested to talk to him on Friday just to find out how excited he is, how there's never any panic with him, but like how many guys he feels that can play, because he will say like I want a rotation of 4, and then eventually he has to lower that because it just didn't work out. So I'm interested to see like where does it start? Can he get like a rotation of 6? Where are you in your confidence level? So we'll find that out Friday. Anything else, Tom, before we get out of here?
Did get to see the kickers at one point. The kickers were working on the 3rd field. There's like a grass field and a turf field, and there's another turf field. The kickers were working over there. They had Dominic DiMaccio and not Blake Hallbeal, Jake Seibert, and Noah Ruggles, who's the grad transfer from UNC. They were all working on kickoffs. If you want an early report on kickoffs, it looks like they are working, continuing to work on dropping them outside the numbers between the 5 and the 10. Either that or they don't have strong enough legs to get it to the end zone. But it was pretty consistent, so I'm pretty sure they are going to continue the same general kickoff strategy they have in the past.
They're consistently weak, is what you're saying. That's the analysis I'm hearing from you on the kickoffs. Consistently couldn't even make it like 70 yards.
And I was off doing something else. I was off shooting, I think, the defensive line during punt. I didn't get a chance to see punt. Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, Jesse
at all today?
Mirko was running with the ones. And then somebody else was behind him. Zach Hoover, maybe. He may be gone.
Michael O'Shaughnessy's
yeah,
probably
Michael
there.
O'Shaughnessy, yeah. I think was going second. Couldn't really see who was returning punts, but all of the usual suspects. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, guys like that. Anything else?
I did have one picture that I really liked, which was Jackson Smith and Jigba going up over the middle to catch a pass and then turning upfield. And it's not the tightest picture because I'm 50, 60 yards away. And the only people in the frame are Jackson Smith and Jigba and Kerry Combs. And Kerry Combs does not look happy about the fact that Jackson Smith and Jigba is the only other person in the frame. There's supposed to be a guy in a white shirt there. There was no guy in a white shirt there. I did like that photo. I threw that on our SC Insiders board. We have a whole thread on the SC Insiders board with kind of a bunch of practice updates, a ton of photos, a ton of videos, interesting video clips from the Ryan Day press conference, the entire Ryan Day press conference. Mark Givler had a practice video. I'm guessing you'll probably have some practice video.
Yeah, I threw up like 10 videos on
Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah, so there's going to be a bunch of stuff.
It's also, I threw them all in the practice report as well.
Yep, so you can find all those on youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. You can find those on BuckeyeScoop.com. You can find those on the Ask the Insiders board. Lots of interesting stuff. I mean, we've been talking here for more than 45 minutes, and it was like we got to watch 45 minutes of practice, and we came away with more than 45 minutes of stuff to talk about. So I guess it was a pretty good first day of Ohio State fall football camp.
Yeah, and got some information from Ryan Day. We'll get some more from Kerry Combs on Friday. I assume we'll do something like this on Friday of some sort.
Sounds about right.
And then we might even talk to you before then, probably. I honestly cannot even tell you our schedule right now.
We did a Tuesday show. Today's Wednesday. So yeah, I mean, we've promised them a weekly show in the title of the show, and they're getting probably at least 2 to 3 this week. So yeah, well, it sounds about right.
We do have shows every week, though.
We do. That's
so,
true.
There you go. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. BuckeyeScoop.com. Check it out. If you're not yet a member, there's no time like the present to do that. So check it out. Become a member. Enjoy the site, and we will talk to you guys probably tomorrow.